I will be teaching you how to sew this beautiful shift gown with side pocket. It has a stylish placket as well as a turn-off sleeves. You can see how beautiful this dress looks. This is what I got right here. Here are my turn-off sleeves, my side pockets. You can see it has a zipper at the back as well. This dress also have two side slits, as you can see. This shift gown is gorgeous and beautiful. Here are my turn-up sleeves, as you can see, my stylish placket and the collar at the back as well as the zipper. So if this is what you want to learn in this class, I will encourage you to stay till the end of this tutorial to learn more. Here I'm making use of 3.5 yards of Ankara print. I use 3.5 yards and I'm going to make a little combination with the remaining fabric I have, as you can see right there. So from my 6 yards of Ankara print, I'm going to cut out 3.5. But meanwhile, I'm going to place the yardage part. Here is the 45 inches and here is the yardage part, the print part. I'm going to fold it using my hip circumference divide by 4 plus 2 inches. I folded it using my hip circumference divide by 4 plus 2 inches. So mine gave me 14 inches. My hip circumference divided by 4 is 12 plus 2 inches is 14 inches. After folding, I'm going to make 1 inch border line. You go ahead and create a border line of 1 inch. This is our starting line. I'll place my tape on the starting line and I'm going to measure the full length of this gown. The full length of this gown is 60 inches. The full length of the gown is 60 inches. So I'll mark 60 inches, then add 2 inches for both seam allowance and wearing a heel. So I use 62 inches. In case you are wearing a heel, you need to add more inches to your full length. This is my full length at 62 inches. So I took the measurement to make sure I still have the 14 inches. So I'm going to cut it out right now. So after cutting it out, we'll begin to take our measurement. So I'm going to take my chest line. From the shoulder line to chest, I have 9 inches. My waistline is 17 inches. My hip line is 29 inches. I'm going to take my knee line right now. So I'm counting 3 inches above my knee line, which is 38 inches. 3 inches above my knee line gave me 38 inches. So I'm going to mark my knee line, my hip line, my waistline, and the chest line. After marking these lines, next, I'm going to come over to the shoulder line. So the neck width is 3 inches. And the neck depth for the back is 1 inch. I'm drafting both the front and the back piece on this piece. Right now, I'm connecting the back neckline. Now you are going to take your shoulder measurement. My shoulder divided by 2 is 7.5. I added half an inch, making it 8 inches. I'll pick up the 8 inches on the chest line and mark. Then I'll come down by 1 inch for my shoulder drop. I'm going to connect the shoulder drop to the neckline. We are going to draft a straight line to connect the chest line. From the shoulder drop, you are going to take the midpoint of your armhole. Then you go in by half an inch for the front armhole. Then we are going to take on the chest line the bust circumference divided by 4. Mine is 10 inches. Add 1.5 inches. Add 1.5 inches for seam allowance and for ease. I'm going to connect right now. I will connect the armhole for the front and I'll connect the armhole for the back as well. You can see how I'm connecting it. So I'm drafting both the two pieces together. On the center front, I'm going to mark my neckline. So the neckline for the front, I'll mark at 9 inches. Then I'm also going to mark at 16 inches. That is 1 inch above my waistline. Then I'll come in by 1 inch and come in by 1 inch on the 9 inches line too. So I'm going to connect the 1 inch all the way down. Then connect from that 1 inch to the 3 inches neckline. That is my front neckline. On the waistline, you are going to take your waist circumference divide by 4 plus 2 inches for ease and seam allowance. Then I'm going to connect from the bust area to the waist area. We'll come over to the hip. You are going to measure your hip circumference divide by 4 plus 2 inches, which is what we use to fold this fabric. I'm going to connect from the waistline to the hip line. Then on the knee line, I'm going to take the measurement of what I have on the hip line, then take away 1.5 inches. If I take away 1.5 inches, I have 12.5 inches. So I'm going to connect my hip line. I'm going to take what I got from the knee line. That 12.5 inches on the knee line, I will take it to the hem line and I'm going to mark 12.5 inches. Then I'm going to connect a straight line to meet the knee line. So after connecting, we are done with the front dress. So the next thing we are going to do is to add 1/2 inch seam allowance on the shoulder seam line. You add 1/2 inch seam allowance on the shoulder seam line. So I'll go ahead and mark that point. That is the shoulder seam line for this dress. After that, we will begin to cut out this dress. So I'm going to cut right now. I'm cutting on the chalk line only on the outside. So you can see me cutting only on the outside. I'll cut the outer armhole, which is the back armhole. Then I'm going to cut the shoulder line. Then I'm going to cut only the back neckline. Remember, we are drafting front and back piece. Next, we are going to cut the back piece. So I brought back my fabric and I placed it on fold. Okay, you can see how I'm placing it out on fold. The part that I cut out, I'll place it on fold like this. So if you place it like this, automatically it gives you the length of the back. I'm going to arrange it very well on the print. Make sure the prints are matching together at the center back. Next, I'm going to take my zip allowance. My zip allowance is 1 inch. So I'll just go ahead and mark 1 inch zip allowance all the way down. After marking down, I'm going to rule a line. So this is my 1 inch zip allowance. Next, I'm going to bring back the front piece and I'm going to lay the folded center front on the zip allowance. So I'm aligning this to be sure it matches on the hem line and also matches on the shoulder line. Then secure with your pin to keep the front piece in place. I'm going to open up the down part right away. Then I'm going to also cut out the rest of the Ankara piece, so we'll be able to draft the back accordingly. So here I'm cutting it off. Once I'm done, we are going to extend the front lines. So I'll extend the neckline and extend the chest line. So you can see how I'm extending it. I'm extending it on both sides because we are going to contour the back piece for our zipper and also replace them on the side. Now we are going to contour on the waistline. On the waistline, I'm going to contour by 1 inch. I'm going to mark 1 inch on the waistline. Then I'm going to connect it to the neckline to nothing. Of course, you know how to contour for zipper bulge, so you can see how I kept my ruler. Then from that waistline of 1 inch, I'm also going to connect to the hip line to nothing. I'll connect to the hip line to nothing. So that is the back contour line. Now the shaded part, I'm going to cut it off. It's not part of this dress. Then you are going to replace the 1 inch on the waistline this way. On the chest line, I have half an inch there. I will mark to replace it on the side. Then we are going to connect the replacements. Make sure you do this to avoid shortage. Then on the hip line, I connected to nothing, so I'm not replacing anything. I'll just keep my pattern ruler from the waistline all the way to nothing on the hip. Then we'll come over to the knee line. So for your bum illusion, you need to also connect from the hip to the knee line. So I'll come in by 1 inch on the knee line. So you can see me connecting to 1 inch from the knee line to the hip line. Then I'm going to replace the 1 inch on the knee line by the side. I'll replace the 1 inch. Then I'm going to connect. You can see how I place my ruler from the hip line to the knee line, which I replaced. Then the rest of the zipper allowance on the center front area, back area, I'm going to cut it off, then replace it on the side. So I'll just go ahead and mark 1 inch on the side just to replace that piece. So I'll rule my line, as you can see right there, all the way down. The next is to cut on the chalk line. So what we are cutting right now is the back piece. Take note, the line on the outer side is the back piece. I will go ahead and cut. Then I'm going to also trace out the back armhole. I'll trace out the back armhole. Then trace out the shoulder seam line. Trace out the back neckline. Then I'll lift up my fabric to cut out the zipper contour line. This is very important to make the back piece relax very well without bulge. Just cut it out to the hip line. Then I'll now take the bum illusion part all the way down to the hem line. So after cutting that piece, the back piece is ready. Now we are going to lift it up so we'll be able to cut the front piece. So make sure you lift it up very well, or you separate it before cutting this part, okay? So I'm going to cut the neckline for the front right away. Once I'm done cutting the neckline, then I'll also lift it up to cut the armhole for the front. So here is my front armhole. I'll just follow the chalk line for the armhole I marked for the front and gently cut it out accordingly. Now we are done cutting. Next is to start sewing. So I'm going to separate the front and the back piece. Here is the front piece. I'm going to take the measurement of the placket. So I'll just place my tape, as you can see, to measure accordingly. I'm taking the measurement of this placket. So whatever measurement you get, just add 3 or 4 inches to your placket. So right here I've cut out my piece of fabric for the placket, and the fabric is on fold at 2 inches. It's on fold at 2 inches, and I cut, you can see it's 2 inches on fold. Then whatever measurement you have on the length, add 4 inches or 3 inches to it. So we are going to stitch right now. Now this is how I'm going to stitch. I will keep like 3/4, and then I'm going to leave half an inch and then stitch all the way down. Go to the machine right now to stitch. So I'm going to stitch at half an inch. Make sure you align very well on that line. Align that placket very well before you stitch. So after stitching, this is what I got. I left half an inch before the cut. Can you see that? Make sure you leave that half an inch, very important. Now I'm going to cut out the excess I have on the shoulder line. After cutting it out, next is to take the measurement from the one folded edge to the other, just as I'm marking. So whatever measurement you have, add 1 inch to it. Whatever measurement, add 1 inch for seam allowance on both sides. So this piece is also 2 inches on fold. The width is 2 inches on fold. Then I'm going to stitch half an inch on both sides. After stitching the half an inch, go ahead and turn it accordingly. So this is what you get after turning. Next, we are going to push it into the placket. You push it into the placket like this and make sure it aligns on the cut. So after you are done aligning it and making sure it's relaxed, then you are going to make a straight cut of half an inch on the side. You can see where I'm cutting the half an inch, only half an inch. So you can see I'm cutting not all of them, the upper piece of that piece. Then I'm going to tuck it in. You can see me tucking it in. I'll take my time to tuck one side in while I leave the center piece like that. So I'm tucking the ends of that straight placket. So once I'm done tucking the sides in, I'll go over to the machine to stitch on it. You can also secure with your pin before you stitch so it does not move around. Now I'll go over to the machine right now. So I'm really taking my time to tuck that part in. That part is very important. It needs to align with the straight placket and also align with the horizontal placket. So I'm securing with my pin. I'll go over to the machine right now to stitch on this part I'm showing you. So after stitching, this is what I got, okay, and this is what we have. So everything is neat and clean. Next, we are going to sew our zipper. So here is my zip. I'll just place my zip. As you can see, make sure you align it very well and mark where you are going to start your stitching. From that point I marked, I'm going to mark 1 inch. 1 inch. Just take the shape of the bum allowance and mark 1 inch. And that is what we are going to stitch all the way to the hem. I am going to stitch right away. I'll stitch all the way to the hem. So after stitching, this is what I got. Now we are going to sew in the zip. I'm also going to mark 1 inch for the zipper allowance. I always like to mark this 1 inch zipper allowance because it helps to sew your zip comfortably. So after marking 1 inch on one side, I'm also going to mark the other side. So I'll also move over to the other side and I'm going to mark 1 inch, then sew my zip on it. Right here, I am still marking. So this is my zip. I'm going to open it up and face the teeth this way. Then I'm going to stitch with my zipper foot. So after stitching, this is my zipper. The back piece is ready right now. Next, we are going to bring the front piece and we are going to lay it right side to right side. I'm going to stitch 0.5 inches on the shoulder line. After stitching, I gave it a good press. Next, I'll put the neckline together. We are going to take the measurement of the neckline collar. So from the center back where we have the zip, I'm going to put it together and take my measurement. So here I got 19.5 inches. So I added some inches to it. I've cut out my collar. So my collar is on fold. And I'm going to mark 13 inches from the folded edge. The width of this collar is 4 inches. I'll get the midpoint, which is 2 inches. and then I'm going to rule a straight line. So that part I'm ruling right now, we are going to stitch straight. So I'm using doll face satin fabric for this. In fact, I use the back part of it. So here I'm folding my collar and I'm going to give it a good press. I'll go ahead and iron down my collar the way you see me do right here. Then I'll also fold the center back area and make a crease line to it. So you can make a crease line or you can make a notch to identify the center back area. So after ironing, we are going to attach this collar to the dress right away. So here is my dress and we are going to place the collar right side to right side. Make sure you cut out the excess zipper, and then we are going to pin on both sides of the zip starting from the center back. Make sure you align the center back. I'm going to align the center back collar on the zip points and pin on both sides. Then we are going to align this and stitch. But before that, we are going to make a diagonal notch. This notch is different from the one we made earlier. So you are going to make 0.5 inch diagonal line. 0.5 inches diagonal line. That is for the stitching of the collar. Can you see? So after you are done making that notch, this is how it's going to look like. Now we'll take the collar to the machine and we are going to sew right side to the right side of the fabric. So here I am stitching. You can see how I'm stitching right there. I'm going to stitch this collar all the way to the part we notched diagonally. I kept stitching all the way till I get to that point. So here is the point I back stitched. So we are going to start again to sew the other part of the collar. So you place it the other way and also repeat the same thing. Once you get to the diagonal notch, make sure you sew at that 1/2 inch exactly and back stitch. So this is what we got after we are done sewing. So I'm going to lift up my fabric right now. So once you lift up your fabric, this is what you have. Secure with your pin and top stitch on it. After top stitching, I'm going to cut the excess fabric. So your collar will look like this once you are done. So make sure you follow this process to get this exactly the way you see it right here on this tutorial. So we are going to put the side piece together. So for the side piece, I'm stitching 1/2 inch on the side. Then after stitching, I stopped at that knee line and took the measurement of what I have. I cut 4 pieces of my plain fabric. The width is 4.5 inches for each and the length is what I measured on that knee line plus 3 inches. So here is it, and I folded 1/2 inch on the wrong side. So you have to fold 1/2 inch on the wrong side. So by the time we place wrong side to the right side of the plain fabric, wrong side of the fabric to the right side of the plain fabric, and you stitch 1/2 inch to the knee point. So here you can see me stitching that part. I'm going to stitch all the way to that knee point. I'll stop exactly at the knee point. So here I'm going to back stitch. After that, I'll flip all my seams to the part of the fabric and I'm going to also top stitch. After top stitching, the next we are going to do is to make a notch. We are going to make a notch exactly at that knee point to enable this fabric to flip to the right side accordingly. So I made a little notch of 1/2 inch. Next, I'm going to flip the back piece the way you see me do. With that notch, is going to relax nice and flat right now. I'm going to place it to the right side of the fabric. Then we will begin to secure with our pins accordingly. So I have 3.5 inches right there. So I'll secure with my pins. 3.5 inches is what I got. So you can see how I'm pinning. I'm pinning in a way I can also stitch on top of it. So you can see that notch we made at that knee point will help this to relax very well. So I'm going to top stitch right now. Here on the machine you can see me top stitching. So I'm stitching across the pins. So after stitching I went to the ironing table. So the rest of the excess I have with the notch, I folded it in at 1/2 inch. And I'm going to put it together and top stitch them differently. Then for the upper piece, I'll also fold in. So after top stitching the sides where I'm pointing right now, I'll fold in the upper piece and top stitch as well. So it's best you do that on your ironing table. So here is what I got after I'm done top stitching. Now we are going to create our pocket. So right here, I'm using this other fabric because the other fabric is too bright. Okay, so you understand what I'm teaching. So my pocket width is 8 inches and the length is 11 inches. But I folded 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. Pocket facing is 3 inches in width. 3 inches in width. So now I'm going to sew the pocket. So you can see what I did. I stitched 1/2 inch and I'm going to top stitch on that part and also stitch the folded part. Of course you know how to create a pocket. So after top stitching, I got the midpoint of this pocket. We are going to attach it to the slit area. So I use my pin to identify the center piece of the pocket. Now I'm going to measure 2 inches, 2 inches or 3 inches above the slits. Then get the midpoint also for the upper piece and make sure you place it at the side line. So I'm securing with my pin on the side line. So we'll go over to the machine to stitch the sides of this pocket. So here I've stitched in the side of the pocket and my pocket is ready on both sides. Now we want to stitch the sleeve area. So I added 2 inches to my basic sleeve pattern on the side and made notches at the grain line and at the front piece. Next is to take off your pattern. Then we are going to mark the run size. You are going to measure from the sleeve head, measure 10 inches and make sure it's on the grain line. I'll also turn the other side and measure the same 10 inches and make a diagonal or cardinal line, sorry. I'll also mark on the wrong side, that same 10 inches on the wrong side. Now we are going to sew our strip. The strip length is 10 inches and the width is 2.5 inches. So I'm done stitching it like a belt. And I'm going to use my screwdriver to turn the 4 of it. You need 4 pieces of it, 2 for one sleeve, 2 for the other sleeve. So after that I gave it a good press. So now we'll go over to the machine to stitch. So I'm going to stitch step down by 1/2 inch on the wrong side. For the inner strip, you will step down by 1/2 inch to stitch it. So we'll take it to the machine and I'll show you how to stitch it. But meanwhile, secure with your pins. That is for the wrong side. And for the front piece, I'm going to place it exactly at that 10 inches line. So you can see how I'm placing it, and that is how I'm going to stitch it. So now we'll take it to the machine. On the wrong side, I will stitch the way I placed. After stitching the first piece, you flip it to the other and stitch 1/2 inch. So you can see the stitches on that side. So I'm going to stitch the right side again and stitch on top of it like this. So this is how to stitch this turn-up sleeve. So make sure you also hem your sleeve, okay? And this is how we are going to tie the sleeve when we wear it. So the next we are going to do is to put the size of the sleeve and stitch Then I'll turn it to the right side. Then we are going to fix it to the main dress. So I'm tying the turn up sleeves, and then I'll bring in my main dress right now, open up the zipper, then turn the sleeve to the right side. Now we are going to stitch the sleeve. So I'm going to insert my sleeve, and I'm going to pin the sleeve grain line to the armhole line and stitch at 1/2 inch. This is what I got, and the dress is ready. Thanks for coming, and see you in the next one. Bye.